Hello, every pony. I'm here with another collaborative review, this time with Addy Lovestar. Probably a lot of you already know her. She does My Little Pony reviews as well as other reviews on her channel. Lots of good content. Feel free to introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Addy. Like Pipp Petals said, I do have my own YouTube channel, but I am extremely passionate about My Little Pony and G5 in particular.
Great. Well, I'm passionate about it too, so we're going to have a great discussion. Now, I've talked about a lot of things I don't like about G5, but I think it's time to talk about something that I really like, and that's Pipp Petals. My first question for you is, how has Pipp changed or stayed the same between A New Generation, Make Your Mark, Tell Your Tale, and the Pippcast?
I think that in A New Generation, they really played up her princess nature as it was necessary for the sort of socio-political themes they were going for, and they downplayed her influencer nature a fair bit. It was still present in the film, but in Make Your Mark and Tell Your Tale and obviously the Pippcast, they really played up the influencer aspect of her character, which makes sense because she's spending time away from being a princess in the first place, but I think that was to her benefit. I think it allowed us to see so many more shades of her personality over time.
Yeah, I think between all the new stuff, Make Your Mark, Tell Your Tale, and the Pippcast, her portrayal has been pretty consistent, which is kind of interesting because there are some other characters who change a lot between Tell Your Tale and Make Your Mark, whereas Pipp, I think, has been the same. But that wasn't the case in A New Generation. She was rather different to me, both for changing the voice actor and I think in the beginning of the movie in particular, they kind of upplayed some of her negative traits to make her self-centered and kind of an obstacle in the story at first. She turned around rather suddenly and without an explanation, and even once she did, I don't feel like she contributed a lot to the movie, so I think she's been portrayed in a more positive light since the series started, and I appreciate that.
I do agree that she's been portrayed more positively after the film. I loved her in the film as well, but I absolutely agree that she did not get any kind of resolution to her character in the movie. Her goal in the movie was to be one of the two skeptics alongside Hitch, and they did Hitch far better insofar as being a skeptic is concerned, and you can understand why he came around, but not Pipp so much. So I do feel like there's been a lot more depth and meaning to her character in the new media.
Yeah, that's interesting. Unlike you, I didn't like Pipp in the movie. She was my least favorite character coming out of the movie, and she's shot straight up to first, which is kind of interesting. Anyways, I already touched on this, but another question for you. How do you think the new voice actor, AJ Bridle, compares with Sophia Carson? How do they differ?
Well, I think that her new voice actor fits with the new style of writing, in all honesty. In the movie, as you pointed out, she was a sort of minor antagonist at first, and we were meant to, understand her as kind of a haughty princess. And Sophia Carson's voice absolutely worked for that. But when they started playing up her influencer side more and started showing her goofy, flawed personality in a more realistic light in Tell Your Tale and Make Your Mark, AJ Bridle's voice, I think, absolutely is better for that.
Yeah, AJ Bridle has done great, in my opinion. She brings more emotion to the role. She does a lot of, over-the-top flares in her lines, singing random lines in dialogue or high-key drama, sort of like Rarity did back in the day. I also feel, for me personally, I've found AJ Bridle to be a better singer. So I definitely have preferred AJ Bridle over Sophia Carson.
I mean, for me, I definitely think her voice work is better, but that's just because I don't think that Pipp in the movie got as much to work with. She didn't get really any scenes to herself besides the big one.
That's true. Maybe so far Sophia Carson could have been great given more of a chance. So next thing, kind of related to that, since Pipp is a musician, so to me it feels like the quality of her music is a part of her character, just like when Rarity designed really good dresses, that kind of added to her skill and her competence as a character. So what do you think about Pipp's music?
Well, I really appreciated Glowing Up in A New Generation probably more than the rest of her songs, explicitly because that one has themes and an emotional hook to it. And one of the best things about it is that in the context of the story, it's a satire. Like, the way it's taken is not supposed to be as hopeful as the song itself, because in universe she's lying to her populace and she's singing this song about all her hardships and how you can make it if you really try, portraying her as like an honest, good person when she's lying bold-faced to her public. And I really like that they went the extra mile to give the song themes, even though they didn't have to, because it is a satirical pop song. In comparison, the rest of her songs, the ones in Tell Your Tale and Make Your Mark, I feel are a bit more shallow, but they definitely serve the purposes they're intended to, for both marketing reasons out of the show and in universe to get the Pipsqueaks excited. So it's hard to say that her songwriting has gotten any better or worse, but it does feel distinctly different from the movie.
Yeah, I felt the difference too. Now, one of my flaws when listening to music, I never really pay attention to the lyrics. I mean, I know what the lyrics of these songs are because I've listened to them, but I never really put much thought into it. So you've opened my eyes to the cleverness of Glowin' Up's lyrics in the movie. But I never liked the sound. The music that is in Glowin' Up, to me, was very synthesized, very artificial, very poppy, which all of Pip's music is poppy, even in Make Your Mark and Tell Your Tale.
I do think that the artificial element of the song was intentional. I think that that's a thematic representation of Pip being artificial in the movie. That's like a very common thing to do when you're trying to criticize someone's character through their music, is to add excessive electrical instruments that overpower the rest of the music. I think My Little Pony even did something, G4 even did something similar.
Yeah, with Countess Coloratura. But the difference between them is, for me, I still like listening to Coloratura's song, the deliberately satirical one. And I still like listening to Pip's music now, her Tell Your Tale and Make Your Mark songs, even though they are still very pop slanted. I feel like they have more energy to them, like the beat goes harder. You can hear AJ Bridle's voice coming through the electricity a little better. And again, she's just a phenomenal singer. So yeah, I've generally leaned towards Pip's newer music rather than in the movie.
I do think that Where'd It Go? I do think that her singing in that is absolutely phenomenal, but it's incredible how high energy she is and how much emotion she gets out of a song which doesn't actually have emotion in it. But it does sound like we just listen to music in different ways. I almost exclusively focus on the lyrics when listening to music.
Well, yep, that's totally the opposite for me. Well, that's interesting. All right, next question for you. What do you think the overall strengths and flaws of Pip's character are? And by flaws, I don't mean flaws in the writing. I mean weaknesses in her as a pony.
I suppose her obvious flaws are the ones that have already been tackled in the show proper, that being her search for validation, her need to feel important, the fact that she is an influencer and lives so much of her life publicly really means that she's held to the sway of the people who adore her. She's kind of beholden to them. And I was surprised that they actually said some things about that in Make Your Mark, and it even occasionally comes up in Tell Your Tale. And I like that. There's not a lot of media about how being an influencer or a content creator affects you psychologically. So I think those flaws are realistic. I think they're handled in a healthy way, and I really appreciate that. As to her benefits, she's just, I suppose, a perfectly nice person to be around, just because she seems to genuinely care about those around her and tries to improve their lives with her own skill set. She's also incredibly optimistic, which is a trait more commonly associated with Sunny, but she's very high energy and optimistic as well.
You just about nailed what I was going to say in terms of weaknesses, her need for validation. Also, as a side note, she seems to be quite addicted to technology. I think that may come to bite her eventually. It hasn't quite in the series yet. It's been mentioned, but not really as the center of an episode. As for strengths, certainly my favorite thing about her has to be how hard she works to bless others with her talents, to inspire them to be their truest selves and to spread cheer and good feelings with her abilities. She works really hard at it. You know, we see her on social media basically all the time, which, you know, to a lot of people is just playing around, but it is her job. And she's also gone out of her way to expand herself. If you remember in the Pipcast episode that centers on her, she talked about why she opened Main Melody, and basically when she got to Maritime Bay, she wanted a new challenge, you know? She was already so successful, and so she expanded from just singing to main care and a beauty salon, which we don't know all of her background. We don't know how much talent she had in that previously, but in any case, it is expanding her career beyond its more limited circumference while she was in Zephyr Heights. So I think that's really impressive that she works so hard to bring joy to other ponies.
Yeah, absolutely. And Main Melody was just an overall brilliant addition to her character, not just because of what you said, that it shows people branching out and becoming more and learning to expand on their talents and bring more joy to others, but I think it was one of the earliest Tell Your Tale episodes just called Main Melody, where that song they keep reusing comes from. But in its original context and in that episode, you see so much what good she brings to other ponies. The moment where Zip's talking to her and showing her the self-confidence she gives others and how beauty actually affects the world around you, that was wonderful. And that's definitely a highlight of her character, is that they show her genuinely bringing joy to people through what she does. So I agree with you strongly on that.
Last point here, do you have any criticisms or complaints for the way Pipp has been written or with the way she's been portrayed?
The big one I've already brought up in A New Generation. She got no character resolution. Unlike Hitch, she didn't get a scene where they convince her. Her skepticism just goes away for no reason, and she gets nothing to do for the rest of the movie. That's probably the biggest writing faux pas, I think. I think that's the biggest goof up. Everything else has been rather minor. Like, every time she's in an episode where she's written poorly, which is very rare, she's the one who's written poorly the least, I think. It's also the case that the rest of the cast is written very poorly as well, so it's kind of hard to pick out. But yeah, in terms of the mainline media, I don't think that a writer's ever done her particularly bad.
Yeah, I agree with that assessment. Biggest problem that Pipp's ever had was in the movie. Skipping her being convinced and then being useless after she's apparently been persuaded off screen. In terms of the media since then, yeah, she's been very reliable. At this point, most of why I continue watching Tell Your Tale is to get more Pipp. There have been rare moments where she's hoofed the idiot stick, like every pony else, though. You know, it's not just her, it's them all being idiots together. And it actually makes more sense for her than some of the others because she's so focused on her work as an influencer that, of course, she's going to be a little blind to the stuff that Zip is concerned about, you know, with Opaline and the crystals and all that fancy stuff. So ultimately, there have been a few minor slip-ups, but she is the most reliable of the main five at this point, I think.
Yeah, I do agree that she's definitely written the most reliably out of everyone.
All right. Well, I think we are basically in agreement as to why Pipp is best pony then.
Yeah, she's still my favorite for sure.
Well, that's all I had for today. Thank you, Addy, for starring on my channel. For every pony who's listening, we will be doing another video on Addy's channel about Hitch, so that's coming up too. Thank you. Peace out.